You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the Weird Libertarians Network. This is episode number 79 of East Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell, and I'm joined today by our co-host, Dakota Davis.
Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. Today we actually have two guests, and they're going to swap seats about halfway through. And
the flying lead change.
Yes.
We say that in Horse and Pony, when you switch halfway through.
The flying what
The
change?
flying lead change.
Lead change. I thought you said leaf.
No.
I'm very confused. Well, and also we are having the triumphant return of your wife. This is the first time as wife, as Sara Morrell co-hosting an episode.
No longer the lovely Sarah Potter.
No more.
Now it's just Sara Morrell.
Just Sara Morrell. Sad day.
Much less exciting. Much less exciting.
So today we are going to be talking with Nan Polk about the League of Women Voters. Did I say your last name right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And we'll also be talking to Mrs. Cathy Hamilton.
It's Dr. Cathy Hamilton.
Dr. Cathy Hamilton?
Dr. Cathy.
Man.
In case you have
I didn't
some sort of
know
a
that.
medical emergency, that's not the kind of doctor she is, so don't get your hopes up, but it is Dr. Cathy.
Do you at least know CPR?
She's off camera. Nan
Okay,
knows.
good.
We're covered. Now Nan can't leave halfway through because she knows
that's
CPR.
right. Yeah.
I was certified once. Well, no, twice.
But
It's
doctor...
expired.
Actually, I've been expired for 20 years, so I'd have to watch you gasp. And
I don't
it's
I don't
like
need
riding a bike.
I don't need a licensed CPR person. As long as you think you're good, that's better than me.
All right, Dr. Cathy Hamilton will be coming on after Nan, and she will be talking to us about the Henry County Expo Center. Anywhere you go in Henry County, there's a lot of rumors going around about the Expo Center, and Cathy is here to put them all to bed. So that's today's show.
So this show is about our lives in rural Indiana. As always, we promise our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. Even if our guests are terrified of what we're going to say, we promise that we're going to make it fun and an easy listen, Nan. Oh, so Dakota, you just come over here. Last night I had a 4-H association meeting, so I sat through a 2-hour meeting and I left early because it was all I could do. I started my day and I drove to Ohio for lunch and I came back and I did like 500 miles in a 2-hour 4-H meeting and then I had to go home and work some more. So I was like, But I drive by, I park in our new studio down here is a half block away from the courthouse, and the parking lot I'm in, I could look over and I saw your truck, and you were just putting in some overtime.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I think that I might have been here every day since the last episode.
Really?
Except for maybe Saturday.
Does Audrey miss you?
Well, I think, who knows at this point. Today she had to work overtime, and I didn't, so she wasn't even home whenever I left. It's been a wild ride, but I've been working on the studio trying to get the soundproofing up, and I came in today after doing all the soundproofing yesterday, and all of it had fallen down from between yesterday and today.
Yeah.
Is the blanket up there soundproofing? Is that
Yes.
what you were doing? Okay, just to make sure.
There is a blanket on the ceiling. We appreciate you pointing that out. It's off camera, but now the secret's out, Nan.
I'm not an audio engineer.
Yeah. No. Basically, we moved from a 10-foot by 12-foot spare bedroom that had room. We couldn't even open the door to get out. If Dakota has the bladder of like a 6-month-old, where he'll have to get up and leave 2 or 3 times during the show.
That is not true.
Yeah, it's true. And now we've got room to move around, but we're in this big brick room, and the sound is not ideal. So it kind of sounds like a cave, or a cavern. So
there's going to be another blanket over there.
We're efforting.
Just you wait, Nan. Just you wait.
We're still
gonna
moving
be 2
in.
blankets. But yesterday, yes, I was over here. Our syndicator, Chris Spangle, on the We Are Libertarians big page, he has been on vacation in quotes, because he's actually at a work conference in Florida, so he hasn't been able to do his actual show, and so he invited myself and Brian Nichols of the Brian Nichols Show to talk about Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah. And Brian kept saying Kavanaugh, and I was saying Kavanaugh, and I'm not sure now. I'm very weary about how to say it now.
It's been
never
Kavanaugh
got-
on CNN and all
the
the
only
other
name I've
channels.
heard is Kavanaugh. So Mr. Nichols, my cousin that we never really wanted, is he's making stuff up. Fake news Nichols.
Well, anyway, so we went through and we did an episode on the confirmation hearings and the allegations that have been passed around. And what we decided to do whenever we were given this topic, Chris just said, this is the topic that you need to cover because this is what's going to get some good listens. And I was like, okay, every single other news program that I subscribe to, every single other podcast and TV network, it's all filled with emotional bias of whether or not you are on the left or the right. So we decided to put together a timeline going day by day of the hearings, starting on July 9th, whenever Justice Kennedy decided to become a senior official and retire, and Brett Kavanaugh's
Kavanaugh.
I don't know how to say it now.
It's because Brian's from almost Canada, and that's why
that might be right.
his accent's a little off. It's okay.
Yeah, bucko. But anyway, so we decided to come up with this timeline and then just work through it and give only the facts, not any type of left-leaning or right-leaning bias on it. So it ended up being really good.
That's in the Big We're Libertarians feed. I heard a portion of that today. I didn't make it all the way through because it got released at 2 or 3 o'clock. But it's a very good episode, and you're right. It was very neutral and just a great spot to go in and be like, well, this has become big news. How did we get here? And over basically just a touch over an hour, you guys covered it all. I think another accuser came between when you guys recorded it and now, so I think they're up to 3 now. But
they have 3
it's
accusers.
a constantly moving target. And then the president had a presser today. But you guys did a really good job. Gold star for the day.
Okay.
You're only as good as your last episode, though. Now we're on this one with Nan, so we gotta get into this and see how we do.
Yeah, we'll see.
Is there anything else we have to cover before we get into it?
Yeah, of course we have to cover some more stuff. We
gotta
have
do
to
some
say
selling?
thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. The Patreon people got to see video of me frantically stressing out about the sound tiles and them falling down while I was waiting on Brian. So every Patreon person that supports us monthly, patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty, you can go there and pay us 17 cents a day is how it starts. It's $5 a month.
You could feed some kid in another country, or you could pay for Dakota's
I haven't
podcast
sang
habit.
In the Arms of an Angel in a while. So Sarah, after this we have to make you look muddy and sad and put like a bowl of food just out of reach.
Nan wants out. I can see it in her face.
I just want to hear him sing.
We're on YouTube, and he can only sing so long, and then I have to cut him off because we'll get copyrighted, and then there will be no reach at all.
Yeah.
And then our episode gets
goes
pulled.
hard.
It ruins it.
We get tossed.
Yep. So you can go to patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. We have the most wonderful supporters, and so they get a lot of bonus content. If you are interested in that, then head over there, and I'm hoping I'm doing a good enough job every week of selling us.
They are the lifeblood of the show. They literally pay the rent and have brought us from sitting around my spare coffee table and a few microphones to where we are today.
Yep.
Which is ridiculously cool. And there's some big announcements. We'll get into that at the end of the show, some of the things we're working on in the Candidate series.
That's right.
But for now, we'll leave it there, and we will talk to Nan Polk, who I assume single-handedly, all by yourself, superwoman status, recreated the League of Women Voters for Henry County. Is that accurate?
That's absolutely accurate. Absolutely not. Nobody does anything by themselves. It takes a village, I think, to accomplish almost anything, and I've definitely had a lot of support and a lot of help, and I didn't step backwards fast enough. So
that happens in volunteer organizations, doesn't it?
President, but we started off in May with about 12 people, and we're up to about 40.
Oh,
That's
wow.
fantastic.
It is.
That's
and
fantastic.
Growing every week. We meet once a month.
And do you let guys in?
Absolutely.
Because it's in the name, League of Women Voters.
I know, but we have 4, and we have one of our state co-president is Oscar, and he's a guy.
All right. So what does League of Women Voters do? What's the role or the very basic side of what the organization's about?
Well, it's a grassroots organization. We're working in counties, And it's to try to promote democracy by keeping people involved and informed. Right now, what we're really busy doing is trying to get voters registered and encourage people to get out to vote.
So in Indiana, you've got just a couple more weeks to get registered to vote, like October 8th, October 9th, somewhere in there is the deadline.
Yes. And Indiana ranks right around last in terms of voter turnout. And we're striving to be 49th.
We're going to
reaching high.
We're going to put Mississippi in the rearview mirror.
That's right.
They're going to be 50th again and something else. I don't know if it's Mississippi. But
I don't know.
I'm just going out on a limb. We'll pick on them. If it's not them, maybe it's Kentucky. Half Newcastle's from Kentucky, so we'll pick on their kid.
There you go.
You're probably from Kentucky people, aren't you?
If you go back far enough.
Yeah, sure. It's a fair thing to do in Newcastle.
So is my family, Jer.
Yeah. Well, my family now, I guess. I had a lot of New Yorkers and South Dakota people in mine. I was imported. All right. So if you guys are having some events for registering people to vote, you can register on your phone. You can go to the driver's license or to the BMV, or you guys have an event coming up at the library. Is that right?
We had it yesterday.
Oh, you already happened.
It was yesterday.
Thousands registered. Everybody in the county's registered now.
You know, we have worked at this on several different locations. We have been to the Moreland Fair. We went out to Farmers Pike. We've been to Raintree Square. We were at the library all day yesterday. I think we've maybe 20 people.
Okay.
But we have checked a lot of people. IndianaVoters.com, and you can register to vote online. It's really easy.
So is that the process that you guys use whenever you're registering people, is going to IndianaVoters.gov?
We've done that, and we also have some forms that you can just get at the courthouse.
Yeah, you just got the paper forms that you
and
can
then
fill out, and then you turn them into the voter registration office.
Exactly. So I think, we've done it both ways. And also, one thing that the League of Women Voters is concerned about right now, and in fact, we have sued the Attorney General of the state of Indiana for the way that they are trying to purge the voters' registrations. And so we have gone back to check a lot of people to make sure that...
they didn't get removed accidentally.
Exactly. Well, accidentally on purpose.
Understand. All right. So the...
That's an app on your phone you can use.
Yeah, absolutely. I use it all the time. Because we check, from the political side, we check you can review a ballot. So you can make sure, or if you're a voter, you can pull it up and say who's on my ballot and what district am I in, who's going to be there, so you can become an educated voter as well. So you pull up that Indiana Voters app and you figure out, what the school board is. You serve on the Newcastle Community School Board.
Yes, I do.
And those are nonpartisan races,
right?
But until about this time of the year, you really don't know who you're looking at for school board, what they, it's not one of the most vocal races, but it's, you pull that app up and you can figure out, hey, these are the names, and then you can go out and find those people and get information on them.
Another thing about League of Women Voters I want to make sure and point out is that we are nonpartisan. We don't oppose or support any candidate or any party.
So how long has the League of Women Voters been around, like nationally?
Nationally, we're coming up real quickly on 100 years.
Really?
Yes. In 1920, it was started just a few months before the 19th Amendment, which allowed women to vote.
Okay, yeah, I was getting ready to ask if it was pre or post.
It was pre, and it was one of those organizations that was for suffragettes. They were trying to get the women to vote. And then after women got the vote, to help them kind of negotiate how that works and to be informed and to be able to do it right. And for all of us, in order to be able to do it right, you need to be involved and be informed. So that's really a basic foundation of what we try to do.
I think you guys have picked the perfect year to restart this organization in the county, because you're coming into 3 consecutive years with elections. We've got the county elections this year and federal elections, and then obviously next year we have municipals again. So the city of Newcastle, the mayor and the city council are up for election. And then 2 years from now, we have another presidential year, and the governor. And there's some very, very high-profile races in 2020. So you picked the perfect year to reinvigorate and build momentum. And your organization's got 3 years worth of work now.
We've been busy, and we anticipate being busy. So
that's very good.
And you're also hosting forums or bringing. You're creating opportunities for candidates to get together and to speak.
Absolutely.
And debate.
Actually, how I really got into the League of Women Voters is I met somebody that was in League of Women Voters in Madison County. So I went up to during the legislative session, they bring in the legislators from the state, and once a month in Madison County, they have forums for them where they can talk about legislation that they're working on or that have introduced or what they think is important, and then they will field questions. And I just thought, that really is important. I mean, yeah, I try really to stay informed. And
so is that like a third house? Is it Third Way, Third House, something like that? The name of the program?
Could be.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I don't know for sure, but and they met in their library. So I thought this would be something I think that's important to try to do, and there's a momentum. I mean, people. I think want to be locally involved and locally informed on what's going on.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
James Pindell just joined from the Boston Globe. He's watching now. Newcastle native, Fox News analyst.
I've heard him speak.
You've heard him speak? Mm-hmm. Did you have him in class?
I don't remember, and I'm sorry, James, that I don't. I don't.
Should have been more memorable.
I don't think so. But if I did, he was great.
Oh, of course. Just right up there with Cade Coger.
Yes, I do remember Cade. So, sorry, James.
Cade is a co-host on the show as well.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So
yes.
he's one of our. We have a. Jeremiah and I have been on every episode, but we have a rotating group of people that
we're in too deep now, and we can't get away from each other.
Yeah. So and Cade is one of those people, and he was. We were writing out this episode, and I made that graphic that I don't know if you saw it on our Facebook page to promote the episode, and had a picture, and I was like, just want to make sure that this is the right Nan. and Cade's like, yes, that is her. I had her in high school, and she's a great lady and a great teacher.
Aww.
So yeah,
well,
some
I
kind
appreciate
words.
That. I remember him as being a lot of fun.
I can see
He's
that.
still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good student.
You allowed kids to have fun in school?
Never.
What kind of teacher were you?
Never. Yeah, I got taught chemistry. If we had too much fun, we'd blow something up.
This is teacher night. The lovely Sara Morrell is on with us, and she's a retired third grade teacher.
Retired.
And Nan's a retired teacher. Kathy's coming on in a minute. She's retired. So yeah, it's teacher night.
I guess.
You said Sara Morrell. Did you hyphenate?
No.
No.
No, we went with the whole shebang. We just changed it all, and then I instantly regretted it as soon as, now I'm Sara Morrell, so anything I say is attached to him now. So I can't be mean on the internet anymore. Not that I was really that mean before.
Anything that I say and anything that Chris Guffey says also gets attached to Jeremiah.
I know. Weird.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people speak for me now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You run for office, and everyone that is attended, that it's amazing the amount of people that are just like associated with your name.
I have a whole team of spokespeople.
Uh-huh. That's right.
All right. So, Nan, you've grown to 40 members. I assume that's all you need, and you don't need to recruit anybody else, and you're good for the next 3 years.
Love to have everyone participate. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and if we can convince everybody that it's important to participate, democracy is not a spectator sport. Mm-hmm. And
that's why I keep running. I'm tired. I get really tired, and hopefully you guys can advocate for this too. I don't care what party you're running for, but you need candidates too. We have an awful lot of races where there's just nobody else on the ballot, and you've got automatic re-elects and automatic elections for people where you just don't have. We have this opportunity to have a voice in government, and we don't have candidates in half of these races.
One thing that I think can be a little bit disheartening for candidates, and it's something that the League of Women Voters is really working hard on right now, is gerrymandering.
Yep.
It makes voting and running kind of frustrating because the chances of there's one party that's
strong.
Federally,
Exactly.
Indiana's carved up so that you have generally 6 to 7 very safe Republican seats and 2 very safe Democratic seats. And you have a big fight when there's an open seat. But other than that, it generally doesn't change. You're in Congress as long as you want to be.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And, right.
Yeah.
Our district goes all the way down to Batesville, and it's
Yep. During the
narrow.
during the primary season, we had a number of the Democratic candidates come through, and the Republican candidates as well. And we had Lane Siekman came up, and he lives in Rising Sun down on the river. You know, we like Lane very much, but the issues that are politically important in Rising Sun are not. You know, they're worried about getting ferry service or a bridge to Kentucky from where they live. Mm-hmm. How does that tie into the economic needs of Greenfield or Muncie or Richmond or Newcastle?
Not much.
It's very different.
It is
very different. But that's your one voice. That's your voice in Congress.
And that's there's issues that the League of Women Voters, especially those things that affect voting, and that's one thing that we're working on.
That's a plan that you remember. He's still a congressman, but he was Secretary of State. Todd Rokita.
Yes.
When he was Secretary of State of Indiana, he came out with a plan, probably 2008, somewhere in that range, to not politically draw districts, but to let computers do it, and then each state senate district would have 2 state representative districts inside of it, and the computer would just say, "Here's what it is," and you would still try to keep together areas that made sense, but. Mm-hmm. You know, in Henry County, we have 2 state senators that represent Henry County. We had this conversation a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. Just north.
Yeah, we have the northern third, and then the southern 2/3 are by 2 different state senators. And because of the way the county is carved up, we will probably never have a state senator from our area because our population is so small that we probably won't have a Henry County state senator. Because of the way the state house race is set up, it's very likely we have somebody from, Tom Saunders is a Henry County person, and we would most likely have a Henry County representation.
Sure.
But from the state senate, we're represented by 2, but one's generally going to be from Muncie or Anderson, and the other one somewhere. Jean Lysing visits us constantly, but she's an hour and a half south.
Yeah, but she does do a good job.
Yeah.
I think of touching base.
But you don't know what the next one's going to be.
No, well, but the League of Women Voters is lobbying to try to do something about changing the way the districts are, like you said, how they're drawn. And I think there was a law in the Senate, but it never got read past.
Yeah, there have been bills offered, but it's just going to take time. There will be new maps drawn for the 2022 cycle, so they probably have 1 to 2 years to really get some legislation passed. Right now you've got a supermajority where the one party doesn't need to show up at all. It is what it is. So okay, so if people want to join or get involved with League of Women Voters, the phone number, email address, do you go to the national website and join? How do they get involved with the Henry County chapter?
You can come on the 3rd Thursday at 5:30 at First Friends, the basement of First Friends Church, and we would love to have you.
Now, say somebody like Sarah works in Indianapolis and can't get there until 6. Is she allowed to show up late?
You know what? You might miss the cookies.
Oh, darn. I don't eat sugar, so that's okay.
We would welcome any comers at any time.
Great.
So that would be great.
Very cool. Well, Nan, we thank you for coming. Is there anything we forgot or left out that you needed to plug or that we're derelict in our duties asking you about?
Well, we'll say we right now are working on voter registration, and we also have issues that we take up and advocate for. But we're also and right now we haven't gotten this in place, but we're working on it, trying to also be very active locally, where we'll go to different meetings and try to be a presence and try to just be aware of things that are going on. And one thing, we stress being informed, and in today's society, information can be skewed occasionally. So trying to actually...
Are you watching the wrong cable news channel?
Depends on who you ask.
Depends on who you ask. I watch several anyway, but in trying to be active locally and being aware of what's going on locally and being informed. So we'll have our members at some of these different committee meetings and reporting back, and so we have a national level and a state level and a local level. And right now we're so busy with voter registration in our forums. There's a forum in Newcastle the 25th.
Okay.
And it will be in the courthouse. It starts at 4:45 for a meet and greet. We have another one that we're helping to sponsor in Middletown, and that is the 23rd at 6 o'clock, I believe, in the Middletown Library. and we're going to co-sponsor something with you.
Very cool. Yeah, we're working on something. We're in negotiations. We've invited a few different organizations to things, or candidates and campaigns.
See who shows up.
We'll see what we can work out. So, well, thank you, Nan, very much. This has been fun, and it's great to meet you and get you exposed to the world. And I can't wait till you have the Boss Hog bump.
I might have to hook you up with a camera and a microphone so that you can start recording meetings.
Oh wow, that would be awesome.
Hey, we can try to make it happen.
I would love that.
All right.
I would love that.
There
And
we
I
go.
really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about what we do and promote the league. And I was a little bit intimidated about I've never watched a podcast that I know of or been on one for sure. Mm-hmm. And then I found out it was libertarians, and then I was really scared. But, this has been fun.
We don't bite.
Not at all.
This is, to explain the Libertarian Party, we say that we're kind of the sensible middle. We generally are fiscally pretty conservative.
I thought I was sensible middle.
Maybe you're one of us. Oh. Generally, we're fiscally conservative and socially tolerant. So it's a live and let live.
There you go.
We try not to drop bombs on people unless we're going to declare a war, and leave things alone. So and pretty reasonable people. So thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you for asking me. It's been fun.
All right.
Good.
We'll see you soon. And you're welcome to hang out and enjoy the milk and cookies that Sara laid out for us.
They look awesome
in the green room.
Oh, thanks.
And
over there in the green room.
And we'll do the flying lead change. And
there's some
and
artwork
help
over there
Cathy
if you want to go ahead and hang it up for us.
Jump on the show.
Screw guns right there on the table. And now the next guest entering the Thunderdome of the Boss Hog of Liberty. It's Dr. Cathy Hamilton.
Man.
Yeah.
Dakota's been wanting to do that for a while.
Nan's upset that she didn't get the same
Nan got the NPR treatment, and Dakota's ready for the WWE. with Cathy.
Yeah, there we go.
So welcome, Cathy. How
Thanks
are
for
you?
having me.
Glad to have you here. We're gonna have Dakota adjust your microphone because you're gonna be you either need to slide forward or he needs to slide that back towards you. You guys can decide how that's gonna go.
I'll wait till she gets seated,
and we'll reset like we're a professional radio show. I am Jeremiah Morrell. We have Dakota Davis, co-host. Sara Morrell making her co-host return, first time in probably a year.
No, I was here right before the wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's not.
I was off camera, but I was there.
Remember, she made a last appearance as Potter.
Yeah. It was with Donnie.
Oh,
Cousin
that's
Donnie.
right.
I was
Cousin
there.
Donnie. Very well listened to. That's right. That now I do remember.
Yeah.
Convenient.
I'm glad I'm memorable.
There've been a lot of these shows. Danya Lester jumped in the chat, by the way, our guest from last week. She had huge ratings already. Like Danya's episode from last week,
very big people
already has outpaced like the last 4 episodes. I was amazed in like 5 days her downloads. I don't know if Danya has this super secret fan following somewhere.
I think she does,
or if she's been sharing the podcast with all of her friends and making them download it, one or the other, which I expect Cathy to do.
Okay, big chuckle there.
I expect Cathy to make everybody download it in iTunes and teach them about how to get it. But Danya's done huge. She jumped in, and she's already in North Carolina. She's living the retired life now too. So she jumped in and said greetings from the beach.
I'm gonna let Danya know. If Danya surpasses Steve Horowitz, then I'm going to make a pseudo feud on the page and make them compete for listeners.
All of our faculty are Division I football school faculty. Danya versus Steve.
That's right.
In the WWE cage match.
It's a Ball State against Purdue.
Jane Burcham's watching in the chat, and she says that the Henry County League of Women Voters has at least 2 male members already.
4?
And
3.
And Nan says 3. And Jerry Walden, the city councilman,
2.
is watching, and he wanted to know if guys were allowed. So absolutely. Jerry, if you're not in there yet, join. All right. So, Dr. Cathy, what have you been doing?
Today?
Yeah.
I actually spent the day in Indianapolis at a national conference on parks recreation.
Very cool.
Parks and Rec. Did Ron Swanson make an appearance?
If he did, he didn't make an appearance in front of me.
Was Aaron Dickin there talking about the pit? Otherwise known as the 1400 Plaza.
Boy, there you are picking Cathy's hot button issues.
I'm getting it.
Cathy goes.
It's like a scab. You just got to rip it off, man.
So
Let me rephrase that. I was in Indianapolis today with Park and Recreation Association.
So Cathy is here today with her Henry County Expo Board or Expo Center fundraising chair and spokesperson role, that hat you're wearing. You're also involved with the Hope Initiative, which I'll let you give we'll say a 30 to 40 second elevator speech on what the Hope Initiative is and how that tied into the Expo Center and where we're going with all this stuff.
Okay. I don't know if I can do that in 40 seconds.
And it's a goal.
All right. It's a goal. We're 20 in now. Hope Initiative is the result of a campaign promise of maybe 12 years ago. And the goal at that time, the mayor wanted a task force around poverty. And quite frankly, I did not think I should say yes to the request because I had been away from Newcastle for 38 years and it seemed a little premature to jump in.
So you are from Newcastle and Henry County originally. You went and taught and you moved to Ohio and had your professional career there, and then you came back home to Newcastle.
11 years ago.
Okay.
And Hope Initiative, I'm a national consultant around poverty issues, how they impact communities, schools, and poverty does impact.
Absolutely.
And that's not said as an excuse. That's said as an explanation. It does impact. And so I didn't see how I could say no, although I was a little bit timid to just come home and start that. But within a very short while, we had a name, Hope Initiative, and we had a mission. Our mission was to extend dignity to every citizen in the county. And that is a lofty goal, but if you're going to have a goal, have a big one. And in essence, on some days, that has meant we advocate for the smallest of citizens, birth to age 5. That's our early learning project. We're very proud of that.
Which our previous guest, Nan, is a part of.
Of course she is. She's on the Education Committee in Hope. And we just hired a director for that program, and she's just done amazing things. She's brought a wonderful grant to the project. But I think, as importantly, we've pulled in some county schools, and they've actually put preschools inside their elementaries. We're very proud of that program. Another project we're working on right now is trying to build a substance abuse coalition. All of that emanates from 6 years ago when Hope went around the county asking 2 questions at the behest of the mayor at that time. What do you love about living here? And there was a lot. And then we asked what would make it better. And out of that came many of the projects we work on.
Came this programming. So that's all happening, and you guys have a building downtown Newcastle, and our friend Travis Wyke, his Save Games library is in there. We've talked about. We had Travis on. We've talked about that. So all of those things have momentum, and you're making an impact in the community. And then about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point,
November 2016,
the Henry County Memorial Park I was a part of that at the time on the Memorial Park Board. And there was discussion about we need to redo some buildings, and there were some projects involved, and the county commissioners went to the Hope Initiative group and said, hey, can you help facilitate this program?
Pretty much. I said November 16, my first encounter with the park, other than when I was a child and would hitch a ride with neighbors to go out and play in that marvelous park, and then gone a long time, came back, and loved to just spontaneously,
And you said this park hasn't changed in 30 years.
Lots of it has not. Of it has not.
Very original.
But I had been asked by one of your colleagues on the board and the superintendent to work around some grants. And I write grants for some folks sometimes. And
just a hobby.
I think
some people like to take naps, and Cathy likes to do grant writing.
Well, I think there are people and organizations that like to help, and I like to give them an opportunity to do that. So we were looking for that grant, and I don't think you can write a successful grant without really knowing your client. So I was just diving into the research, and literally 2 months later, you're right, Jeremiah, we were approached and asked, would we conduct some focus groups around the county? We did that for 5 months, and we did that at the behest of both the park board and the commissioners, and then we made recommendations last June 2017. It was we're very honored to have been a part of it. And I think out of that has grown an extraordinary project, not just the expo, because every part of that park is being impacted right now. So
Henry County has a really unique asset in Memorial Park. We've got a 300-acre, more than 300-acre park that inside of it has an 18-hole golf course. We have a first-class equine facility. We have trails, we have monuments, we have auditoriums, we have a fairgrounds, we have playgrounds. It's phenomenal what we have.
Really
It's
ton of shelter houses
and shelter houses and just the counties don't have that.
At one time, it was the largest county park in the state of Indiana. Correct?
I don't know if it was. I don't know that. I don't know. It could be. I know it's the largest war memorial park in the state of Indiana.
Okay, I thought it was at one time. It's not currently, but at one time, I believe it was the largest county park in the state of Indiana.
I can see that. I know that in the 1940s, in the work I was doing, it was so heavily visited that DNR considered, Department of National Resources, they considered naming it a state park. Really? And it has a lot of diversity in terms of what it has to offer and that kind of thing. The golf course you mentioned is no longer a part of the park,
it's
but
privately
it's adjacent.
owned, but it's very complimentary and entered through the park. And if you don't, it's a lot like the Saddle Club. The way I view the park, and everybody can have their own opinion, and I know that everybody, there are different opinions out there, but it's all very complimentary.
Sure.
The Henry County Saddle Club
Totally
leases the ground, and they operate the Saddle Club and those 23 or 25 acres or whatever that is. But to the person that's coming into the park, you don't know what's in or out. There was a private operator, the American Legion operated a golf course, and then it was sold. But you still have an 18-hole golf course that's so to the general public, it still faces and views the same way.
I totally agree with you. I mean, if you just ask folks, you're going to the park, they don't parcel it off.
Right.
And
now with the
Expo,
owner,
the owners of that piece, the wife of the owner, has spent the majority of her entire life because her family actually owned that at one point was a farm area. So no, you're right. People see that as one amazing park.
Yeah, it's all very complimentary. So over the course of the meeting that we got to last June, the different boards and councils and commissioners got together and said, yes, the Henry County 4-H and Ag Group can move forward with their project, which was to replace the existing 4-H facilities. And the study continued, and it became, there's this parcel of land. We're going to build a 65,000 square foot Expo Center inside of the park, and the commissioners have entered a lease with the Expo Center board, which I'm a part of, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, just like the Saddle Club is. And there's a 25-year lease, and now this organization that you're working with can move forward and develop and build this thing. So what's going to happen in this thing?
Well, I think just rolling back a bit there. In the beginning, the plan was they were going to rebuild the barns that are behind the Smith building. And, 55, 60 years ago, a group of farmers came together and put their own, some of their own funds, and certainly a lot of their talent and their sweat equity, and they built barns. And it served the animal part of 4-H very well. The plan was to rebuild right on that same spot, and soil borings made that not possible. That space used to be a landfill, and underneath that had at one time been a pond. And so when they started going down, folks looking to see, okay, we're going to build here, they determined that it was not suitable for today's construction. And quite frankly, I'm going to be very honest with you, I was not involved in it until that point in terms of that construction. But looking back on it, I believe it was a stroke of absolute best luck ever. Because if they had built back the barns, they would have had an extraordinary place for their animals. But they would not have had what is now going to be a full program. The 4-H of today is not the 4-H of my children. today's 4-H is robotics. I mean,
Yeah.
they have everything else. I mean, they still have their
You still
the
have
sewing and the
livestock and cooking
yeah,
and
there's,
and
that's
those types
wonderful.
of projects.
That's a part of ag business, but they also have speaking contests and art and photography and the STEM, the science, the technology, the engineering, and the mathematics. Those aren't limited to 4-H. Those are career options now.
Yeah.
And so what happened when that pause button was pushed because of the location, folks rethought it. And so when they finished up, the Smith building is going to be amazing, I believe. They are modernizing the upstairs and creating a veterans museum in the downstairs, which it is a war memorial park.
So we'll give a little bit of context because we have listeners. We have a guy that came through here 2 weeks ago who's from Hawaii, Craig DeCosta, and he listens because our community is very similar to his. He lives on a Hawaiian island. It's like 60,000 people. So for Craig and people that just listen from a distance, the Smith building is an auditorium. It was our county highway garage 40 or 50 years ago.
Sure
It's
was.
been converted over, and it's a
Two-story
or one story with a walkout basement.
Sure.
Stone, very ornate building that had
Built
an
in
annex, built in the 30s or 40s.
As a part of the government piece of putting people back to work. That's
The
that's
WPA time.
Right. And so it has wonderful memories for folks. It has some makeup errors that when we were having these conversations, it was even on the table for a moment. Tear it down. I mean, literally, there were some folks who said, it's done its job, and it has water and issues, and it has. Some people think it's an artesian well, other people think something else, but there's a water piece underneath it.
Could we drill into the well and then sell the artesian water?
Would you like to be on my fundraising committee? I think you have a career. Until they make that decision, Dakota, they're going to actually reroute the drains into the pond. But bottom line, that's important because
That water's being wasted in the pond.
No, the fish don't think that.
The museum cannot move forward until we have that water issue. You put
So
things at risk.
we were talking earlier, and like we're talking about now, we're talking about Memorial Park, the new Expo Center that's going to be built. I know that there was a feasibility study conducted out there. So the results from that study, how much of a market do you think there is in Henry County? What people do you think are going to be using the facility, like renting out the halls and things?
Based upon the 5-month study, our sense was that this was going to be well received. Then and that piece was completed by June of 2017. In January of this year, from January to April, a consultant out of Indianapolis was hired by the Expo Board to interview folks around the county, and it came back even more solid than we had, and we thought we were pretty optimistic, but folks are absolutely telling us this is what we need. It's not just what happened is it started off we started our work at the end of January. Our first meetings came in February, and the 4-H family, of course, the ag family, they were all saying, we want this for our 4-H. By the time they sat in on all the other committees, at least by the end of April, they were saying, yes, we do need a right facility for 4-H, but it can't be limited to 4-H. And so it morphed into the one building, the multipurpose. There are two large buildings that are connected. The multipurpose building is 55,000 square feet. It will do everything that those barns are now doing for 4-H.
So it's your show arena. It's where your all of the large animal livestock, except for horses, are shown.
Absolutely,
and exhibited.
New
and
nice
housed.
building. Yeah.
And because the folks who have been on the first level of creating this, they've done all the kinds of things that you wish you had done if you'd only thought. They have put storage units in, so all of the pens that are necessary for animals, etc., those will be neatly stored away. They have made sure that this building will be air conditioned and heated. Now, not all the time, but there will be some programming in there that you want air conditioning. But when you're putting animals in there, you don't want air conditioning. That is not a natural piece for them. And so they've done ventilation that makes that sensible. It's just an amazing place for 4-H. And they are leasing equipment that within a day's time, they can convert that. It can be an indoor automobile show. It can be a trade show. It can, without just if we were putting people in there for a concert, for example, 2,400 people can be in
a wide array of options,
Absolutely.
basically. So
Absolutely.
That was the finding of the feasibility study is if you're going to do this, then you need to make it a multifaceted.
Absolutely. When you look at one of the architect drawings, the architect put 3 basketball courts.
Yeah.
And when some of the folks from the 4-H, they were saying, this is to show you how big this building is.
Right.
And I looked at it as a former high school principal and said, I look at those 3 and see traveling ball.
Yeah.
And you can.
Well, that's what I was like, volleyball tournaments,
There you
wrestling
go.
tournaments,
Thank you,
all
Sarah.
kinds of things like that can happen in that
Gymnastics
building.
contests, indoor soccer. Absolutely.
So from the
it's our
4-H
imagination was our only barrier.
From the 4-H end, this facility, you will have livestock shows throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Different species will come in, and there might be a major cattle show or hog show and those
Sure.
sorts of things. And then you're going to go to county fair. But the building is designed to be able to be rented commercially to pay for itself.
Absolutely.
So it's not designed to be a county-owned and managed building. It's just like the Saddle Club.
It is county-owned, but not county-managed.
County-operated.
Right.
It's
Yes.
like the Saddle Club. It is its own 501c3,
Absolutely.
independent board, independently managed, and their
Right.
staff handles the facility and the P&L, the profit and loss for the building.
This building, if we are capable of thinking beyond what we've always done, it can be Corey Murphy, who is our EDC director, he calls it an economic game changer. We will bring people, right now the Saddle Club is a very good barometer for what can happen. Rebecca Baker, who's president of that organization, she says 70,000 people come into there. I can't see that it'll be any different. I think that there'll be I anticipate there'll be collaboration amongst those between those two entities. Mm-hmm. But I called a friend recently. I thought I was calling her here in Newcastle where she lives. She was actually in Michigan, and I said, "Why are you in Michigan?" She's there for an indoor car show. Her husband's car, his Mustang, has never had a drop of rain on it. And I said, "Hey, could you bring
There's
that
another
here?"
purpose.
Proms. That's the other building. We have another building that we call it the banquet hall, and it actually has 2 facets. The banquet hall itself, with round tables, will seat 500 people, right at 500. In theater style, you're looking at 700 people. Here's the issue. We have a local florist who tells me that half her weddings are outside of the county because we have no place for a larger wedding. Our proms, our schools, they have to leave the county because they don't have space.
Now that even though it's in Memorial Park, are they going to allow alcohol at the facility?
The Expo Center itself is not going to carry a liquor license. They're not.
Okay.
However, for certain,
you can bring in a bartender with a liquor license,
and that's how that will work.
same,
now that
right, yeah.
will not be happening at proms.
Right, but it's the same. It's the same model that you see used for most wedding venues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you attend
Yes.
a wedding at the Newcastle City Armory, the same thing happens.
Absolutely.
A local bartending
Surely.
service company comes in, and then it's handled.
Yep.
So inside of that building, you also have offices. You talked about the STEM side. You're going to have offices and classrooms set up
Right.
for programming throughout the year.
The offices, there'll be 2 sets of offices. One set is Purdue Extension. Right now, when they get ready for a fair, they have to unload everything uptown and travel out to the park. They will have permanent offices inside the banquet complex.
Which is similar to what Wayne County, Indiana does. A number of counties
Yes.
have that, where their extension office is set up in that type of center.
I believe Morgan County's is on their fairgrounds as well.
And that is just continuing to learn more about all that is in this piece. sometimes folks think Purdue Extension and think that's 4-H. One of their extension officers was sent to Savannah, Georgia this summer, and is one of 10 extension agents in the entire state that is now certificated to do training around mental health, including recovery from substance abuse. So it is a win-win to have that. I'm sure they're pleased to have new offices that are right there in the park.
Yeah.
But the entire county should be pleased that we have that kind of expertise and talent that is virtually available to us for the asking. So that's a good piece. The other group of offices will be, there will be a professional director hired. You cannot have this kind of construction, and we all as volunteers mean well, but we need someone who's trained, who's experienced, that can take this home for us, because one of the sustainability pieces is we absolutely have to have that building used. There's no intent to build a large building and let it be an albatross around the neck of this county. That would just be ridiculous. So right now we are in the process of two campaigns. One campaign is to raise the money that we need to make this a reality.
Which is a little over $5 million?
5.2 builds it, landscapes, does all of those pieces, but it also
that
a year
is
and a half of operation.
Yeah, that's also some protection money,
It
right?
is protection.
I guess is that, for lack of a better term, it would be protection money to keep you funded for a certain amount of time, even.
It's the cushion in being new. It's the cushion.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other campaign we're running is to make sure that we fill the calendar. So if you are, and please, you're welcome. Visit us at the temporary offices at the municipal building in town. But they're on the wall. There's a 2019 calendar, and Jeremiah's going, she really does this to us every meeting.
They're filling dates.
We absolutely need to fill the calendar.
Did we get any of our junior leader meetings on that calendar?
Absolutely, yeah. The 4-H meetings will be happening out there as soon as the building opens. That's the reason for the classrooms, is so that we have 4-H programming. Our club meetings will be able to happen there.
Now those classrooms, there are 2 permanent, and then there's they used to call it a kiva, I think, and Nan spoke of her Indian heritage, a kiva, where it's just a large room that could accommodate probably 100 people, but you can open it. And you can close it off and have 4 separate classes.
Yeah.
So you guys have the calendar for 2019. Do you have a projected time that you think this is going to be finished?
Oh, yes. The intent from this crew, and I ask them with some regularity, is July 19 will be the home of the fair.
Oh,
it will be there right then. And then we have some contracts already signed for October and November. And we have verbal, and Jeremiah's going, she's doing it on air. I tell folks, I love it when people wish us well. I like signatures. I like signatures on intent cards. I like signatures on contracts. And so for me, a really successful campaign will include financing, but also those dates on the calendar. So
okay, so I one of the big questions that I've heard. So I talk to a lot of people, and
it's your job, Dakota. You're a talking head.
So I and a lot of people obviously know that I do the show, and one of the questions I always get is, if say something happens, we can't fill these dates, you can't fill your calendar, then who's going to be paying for the upkeep and the maintenance? Because one of the big questions is the Smith building was ignored for such a long time as far as maintenance went. How can we make sure that that's not going to happen with this?
I guess I'll respond to it two, maybe 3 ways. First off, this was not, sometimes folks will hear that construction deadline and they'll say they're on a fast track. Actually, these folks have been working on this track for over 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
and so there are pieces in that. So there's been extraordinary vetting of this piece. When we talk about the sustainability piece, our goal is to have this building paid for. That's our goal. Now, I am not a bimbo. I do know that sometimes...
I announce you as Dr. Cathy Hamilton.
It tells you that I really like to learn. But the truth is, I have utmost confidence that they're going to meet their goals. I do believe that. I don't go into things lightly either. But here's what I know. I know that when they think I'm kidding, but in their heart they know I'm not kidding. We need that calendar filled. That is their sustainability plan, based upon 50%, which is extraordinarily conservative. It's more conservative than I would be on this piece. But if they only booked 50%, they will be solvent. If they only booked 50%, I don't think that's going to be their story. Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that folks just have been waiting for a new approach to how we grow our county. And if you start looking at this, I am one of the people who has signed a contract to do a 2-day workshop, education workshop. My doctoral degree, I really couldn't help you if you needed a breathing person, but someone who could help you breathe. But my work is in education, and I think that Henry County is positioned geographically wonderfully to not just do a one-time 2-day conference. I want to do this ad nauseum. I want the conference to become so extraordinary that people say that's our fall PD, and we'll travel. I have been a national consultant since 2005, and people come. People come from 3, 4, 5 hours away. They will come to conferences if they're worth the trip. And our intent is to work with local universities, and let's make this be absolutely awesome. So that's my piece, but look at all the others. I mean, the other kinds of pieces that are going to be real here. Have
you been talking to like some of the factories and other businesses in town about having like meetings there?
Yes.
And okay, cool.
Yes, and we're getting yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
And what we'll be looking at, there'll be some pieces where this Expo board is very generous in their heart toward their county. So there'll be different kinds of rates for nonprofits, perhaps, versus whatever as we work through. Mm-hmm. But the full intent is for that to be a very busy place. I actually threw this to the Expo board, talking with a couple of our school superintendents. I said, could you see a bus leaving your school a couple times a week and heading to the park where they would be met with adult mentors, and parents would know their youngsters had a couple more hours of adult supervision. I mean, we just have to decide how we're going to use that park.
So this is obviously the board and the 501c3 is running the facility, right? So on the flip side of my negative Nancy question, what happens if it's hugely successful and they're pulling in all kinds of money from places? Where does the leftover funds go, if there are any?
Actually, it does work as a nonprofit, and that doesn't mean it has to be broke. But in essence, the lease that has been signed, the commissioners will continue to own both the land and the building, but the Expo board will operate the facility, including its finances. Now, they will do some things that they haven't done in the past. It's the 4-H piece of that. They intend to pay their way. They intend to contribute to the park, and I think
cool.
That's
in the plans. There's a playground that's being displaced by the building and a couple shelter houses.
Yes.
The Expo board is rebuilding an handicap or an ADA accessible playground in the adjacent area. There are some shelter houses that are getting moved and repositioned based upon where the commissioners and the park board want them. So there are improvements in the park that are going to happen naturally just because of that. But then, if this facility is we'll say printing cash, Dakota, the obvious thing, just like the Saddle Club does, it reinvests back into the community.
It reinvests, sure.
All right, so let's talk about the finances for just a second. It's about 5.2 is the full capital campaign.
Right.
The county, on the original plan, when they were going to rebuild on the original site, there was a $2 million bond that was taken out, and that $1.2 million that was the balance. There was a bond taken out that was going to pay for voting equipment and park improvements. Right. The original goal was to rebuild those structures where the existing ones were. Instead of doing that, they said, okay, we're going to give that to this project, and that was the money we're going to spend here. We're going to shift it. That'll cover that. And then the rest of this, your group needs to raise. So you've had an announcement. You've had an announcement recently from the Community Foundation.
Yes, we do.
And then some other big checks have come along. So that's the capital campaign is happening now.
It is. We kicked off publicly kicked off the campaign September 19. What we have is the gift from that bond is $1.21 million. And then we have just marvelously been, it's not just feel good because we have some money, but the Henry County Foundation made a matching grant to this project. And what I loved about it was two things. One, the foundation doesn't just give a grant, they vet the project. So to your question, do people think this will work? A foundation board believes in this project to the tune of $300,000. And they made that a matching grant, and they put a stipulation. They're going to match it in $10,000 increments, which means if we go to someone and someone gifts us with $200,000, we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. The foundation will match $10,000 of it. And the reason for that is the foundation wants to have a lot of people's involvement in this. And I love that. I think that's a good thing. So at this point in time...
So if someone wants to give you $200,000, they should
take
write
it.
you $10,000 checks?
Actually, I would expect Dakota for you to come up with that plan as my assistant in campaign management, but I know that board very well. No, they will give us $10,000 for that $200,000. But
Per donor.
we believe we will match that $300,000. We're confident. We have in the week since that has become public, we have received $80,000.
In a week, yeah.
In a week. And so I believe that we're going to match that grant. And we have, we're going to have big events, and we're going to have some smaller events. We've been doing a lot of coffee clatches. Those are kind of fun. Dakota, you get 8 of your friends together. I will come to your place. We'll talk. We'll eat dessert, and then we'll have sweet talk about this Expo Center.
Okay.
And then
We might
you
have
can
to do it
get
at
me
Jeremiah's place.
$10,000.
I don't know where I live anymore.
Dakota's
There's a spare
decided he's-
bedroom, I think, at Jeremiah's.
There's room at my house. I mean, we
We've
all
got a
kinds
nice
of
big
meetings there.
kitchen table that would have room for 8
Right.
people.
But we're not cocky. I want to be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we are confident
And-
that people, if we get to say to them what this means to this county, I believe people will support it.
So Mike Broyles is saying that if somebody gives $5, they're going to match $5. So if you make a small donation, you're $50. If you give $50 today and write a check to the Expo Center, that turned into $100 for the project.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's not you're
any
not
amount
just
up to $10,000
Yeah.
they will match.
and you're
Got it.
absolutely thrilled for the $50, $100, $200 donations
sure.
all day long. You're
Absolutely.
not just looking for some rich guy to write a $10,000 check today.
Absolutely, we are not. I tell you, it's going to take all of us, and together, I like the all of us, because I think that's sometimes when a few folks do something, then you have a few folks feeling the commitment. But if when we start building out there and folks can see their own fingerprints, whether it's a $5 donation or a $300,000 donation, they're going to feel an ownership.
Yep.
Really are.
Corey Murphy, we talked about him a little bit, but he's also very confident in the Expo Center. And he was actually, I saw today in the Courier Times that he was talking about the Expo Center might be such a big deal in the county that they are now talking to national hotel chains to look into exit 123 off of I-70, which is right in Spiceland and Henry County, and because they're expecting a lot of traffic.
Well, I'll speak to my own conference. I'm expecting that we'll have minimally 300 people. 300 people. I will have to reserve banks of rooms this first year, unless there's a miracle in that construction of motels. I will be reserving in other towns.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't wish other towns well, but this is where we live.
Right.
And so
to put it kind of in perspective, he said, Corey mentioned that a 50-room hotel would need to make 11,000 bookings, and in 2013 they conducted a study, and it didn't make any sense, but now that the Expo Center is being built, it is starting to make sense. Mm-hmm. So that instilled some confidence in me, and then you were in the same article talking about maybe some lodging happening at the Expo Center.
Cathy dreams big. All kinds of options.
Life has taught me that if you want big, you've got to dream big. Walt Disney, the great researcher, Walt Disney, he said, if you can dream it, you can have it. So this group has 60 acres. They have 60 acres, and 5 acres will go to this piece. And I'm going to take the credit or blame for this lodge, because this cannot be in other people's mouth. They didn't necessarily say it. But in my head, I said, what a marvelous addition. And I was thinking a 60 room. They don't need a banquet hall. They've got one right down
It's not entirely unheard of where you have lodges at parks. Like a lot of Indiana state parks have lodges.
Right. And I had some folks, and I don't resent this. I think that if an idea is any good, it can take some pushback, and if you can't explain it, and sometimes you get something that causes you to think deeper. Someone said, one, why did we put it in Memorial Park? And two, why would people go to a lodge in Memorial Park? I'm a road warrior until 2 years ago, when some family illness kind of clipped my wings. I was spending an average of 225 nights a year in motels.
Whoa.
I know.
Holy cow, Cathy, you need to settle down.
You just thought I was an old woman. I know. You just thought I was an old woman. But truth is, if I knew that 15 minutes from 70 and 3 or 17 minutes from 69, 67, this is an amazing location, this county. Mm-hmm. You've got 38 going through us and 3, and you've got 36. You're in a
300 acre park. You've got a first class state park 5 minutes away. You've got Westwood. There's all kinds of nature and outdoors.
Cathy, Indiana is the crossroads of America, and Henry County is the crossroads of Indiana.
You're right.
Yeah. So we got a lot of things going.
We have my roads.
As a road traveler, this is what I want. I want clean, I want safe, and oh my, if it can be lovely. I don't think there'll be a problem filling this. I just don't think there'll be a problem filling a lodge. But that's on the shelf.
So where do people mail their checks?
Pardon
Let's start
me?
with that. If somebody wants to write you a check today.
Expo Center,
mm-hmm.
Box 137, Newcastle, Indiana.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Super easy.
That's what we need. Absolutely.
P.O. Box 137.
And just write your check to the Expo Center.
Absolutely.
Not
and if it's under $10,000, it just doubled. And it's tax deductible, right? You're going to get a little slip back in the mail. So
it is that.
If if you're looking for a tax deduction, you're going to get something back. That's it.
You said that, Dakota. So anyway.
Right. Well, we are getting to that point in the show where we start our final thoughts. That doesn't mean we're done. It just means we're starting our final thoughts. So Sarah's been here.
Which means we're done.
It doesn't mean we're done. Everybody gets one more bite at the apple.
We're almost done.
So Sarah, you're in the first final thoughts seat.
Oh yay!
You've been here
Lucky
before.
me.
You've barely spoken.
A little bit.
What
here and there.
what do we got? What do you got on your mind?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is just looking forward to my schedule the next month or month and a half, which is looking forward to an election.
Me too, Sarah. I hear that one.
Right? I know this Saturday and Sunday. Don't interrupt me, please. This Saturday and Sunday, we will be walking. We will be walking this Saturday and Sunday for Jeremiah's campaign for County Council District 1 here in Henry County. So we would love to have anybody who'd like to join. I'll be setting up some maps and some other things for people or some different tools that we have now to use for this walking campaign this weekend. And then we're just looking forward to hopefully having a good next month and a half of meeting people, talking to people, and seeing where they fall. So
Dakota, I listened to a portion of his program today with Brian Nichols on the Big We Are Libertarian show, and Dakota said he can't wait for the 2020 election cycle, and I went, Dude, I want to get through the 2018 election cycle, and you're sitting here excited about 2020.
I mentioned that I'm just ready to get through Friday.
I wanted
to take a day by day.
I wanted to slap you through the podcast machine when I heard that one.
I'm ready for the presidential election in 2020. I should have clarified.
See what happens.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that'll be exciting. But I think my final thoughts, I guess, would be we are looking for volunteers, anyone who would like to walk for Jeremiah's campaign. We have some really neat tools we're going to use this year that's a little different than what we've done before. We'll see how they work out and then kind of make decisions from there, be flexible, and just be out there meeting people and enjoying ourselves.
All right. Very cool. Mark Rutherford's coming, the Secretary of State candidate. He's going to be he'll be joining us for that walk. So if you want to meet a guy running for a statewide office, come see us Saturday morning.
So he'll be there Saturday morning with us.
All right. Dr. Kathy, did we forget anything? Final thoughts? If you want people to get involved with the Hope Initiative, we kind of skimmed over that group, but how do people join that group?
Well, I am thankful that you reminded. Twice a year we do a Take the Pulse. And so our next Take the Pulse is the third Thursday of October. And in that meeting, we invite elected or acclaimed leaders, people who are, whatever they're doing for the county, come and tell us how it's going. And it's not a gotcha meeting. It's a how are things going? Mm-hmm. And if things are going well, it's hallelujah. If things are slower than we thought they would be, we say, do you need some help? Is there anything we can do? In terms of membership, maybe we're wrong in this, but we don't do membership. We sure would hope you would come. If you come and don't come back for 6 months but then you show up, we don't go, gee whiz, where have you been? We say, glad to have you again.
Where have you been? Shame. It's like shame. Where have you been? We haven't seen you in 6 months. Do you know how many projects we assigned to you that you didn't do, Sue? Come on.
Who's Sue?
I don't know.
She's
just Sue in the third row. We're really picking on her. She's been away since December, and we noticed.
We noticed.
There are some really good things that are. I'll just give this one little piece around hope, and then I will let you have your final words. Several months ago.
Pull her mic in closer for her.
Several months ago, we had 17 folks that had come to a meeting. So it can be from 5 people to 80 people, and we don't know. It depends on the topic we have. Well, I had one of these moments where I gave everybody a Post-it note, and I said, write down what you are involved in. If you're on a board, if you whatever, but not something you just put your name on, something you really care about, you really go to. And so I gave them a few moments, and we're all writing. 54 organizations were represented by those 17 people.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
It is amazing because what that says, there's an old saying, if you want something done, get the busiest people you know.
I was going to say, do it yourself.
Let me quote Nan. That only works for a while.
That, or I was going to go with like the old saying you hear, especially in like church organizations where you have 10% of your people are doing 90% of the work, or 10% of your people are doing 90% of the contributions there. Mm-hmm. So
we'd sure like to see the youth that I'm seeing sitting around this table at our meeting. So do feel invited.
Okay.
You see
an awful lot of me, Kathy. An awful lot.
This is the guy who could not come to my training session because he was getting married in 7 days.
I know.
That's a week out, Kathy.
I know.
We had things
what do you have to do 7 days out? You set up for the wedding like the night before?
I didn't understand it either.
I don't know what we were doing, but I was busy.
Actually, we were very gracious.
Yes.
And gave him advice for a long, wonderful.
I haven't slept on the couch yet. I think it worked. It's worked out okay.
It's only because I need a heater in my bed.
I learned, people asked, I went from a king-size bed all to myself to I get about 30% of a king-size bed now.
And that's just
I'm
fine.
I'm sure Dakota
it varies
experienced the
between
same
45 and 65%, I would say.
It varies.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Dakota shares his with a German Shepherd too, though. We don't. That's not the way it happens.
Well, okay, so Daisy, the German Shepherd, it used to be just me and her at home. Okay, so she would always sleep on one side of the bed, and I would sleep on the other. And we have a queen size bed, so it's not a king. and like these privileged folks have. And then my wife obviously moved in after we got married, and my German Shepherd she just didn't know how to take it.
I can understand that.
She's still very
She got
upset.
kicked out of her bed.
But you did make the right decision,
Well,
right?
it's been nearly a year, and she's still upset about it.
Aw.
Anytime that
Daisy.
Audrey is out of town, she always jumps up right in her old spot. Still, after like a year.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Cathy.
All right, Dakota.
All right, I have a couple final thoughts, Jeremiah. So it'll be amazing if I make it through the month of October without stroking out.
You and me both.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is we just started scheduling our candidate series, and we've been frantically trying to get candidates to appear. If you remember, dear listener, a few weeks back, we had a show survey go out so that everybody could answer some questions and give likes and dislikes. Had a bunch of people fill that thing out, and one of the things that we found was that there needed to be some major improvements to the candidate series.
People love the candidate series,
Yes.
but they said,
It was a love-hate.
boy, I heard the same conversation 17 times.
Yep.
And Dakota and I thought, God, we had the same conversation 17 times.
Yep.
So we're recalibrating slightly.
Yes, and so we what we decided to do was host each candidate for a specific race at the same time. So for county council, Jeremiah's district in District 1, there is Jeremiah, the Libertarian, there is Pat Cronk, the Democrat, and there's Kenan Gray, the Republican, and all three of them will be sitting around the table. And
Or we'll be invited.
Yes.
We're
They're
still
going to
working
be
on
invited.
confirmation.
Yeah. We're working on people to say yes and some people to tell us.
We've got some
buzz
yeses and
off.
some phone. I don't think we've been told to know by anybody, but we've got yeses and we've got voicemail.
Yeah, well, there's a couple people that I'm pretty sure they're saying no just by their, just by actually ignoring me. Like, if you're on Facebook Messenger, I can see that you read the message. Anyway,
Dakota's got to go to the post office tomorrow and get certified mail now.
you're gonna get a mailer. But yeah, that's the plan.
You're gonna you're gonna have the sheriff's department serve somebody legal paperwork.
Will you be on my podcast?
I can
need
tell,
an answer.
I can tell you read the message 2 days ago, and I sent a reminder message, and you read that one as well, but still no response.
Maybe they're checking their calendar. Man.
Maybe. Who
But that
knows?
would be nice to respond with. Let me check my calendar. I have
Yeah.
some events that we're
Yeah,
planning at
that's
this
all
moment.
I'm asking
Yeah.
for, Sarah.
It's not the Dakota Davis show. It's not the Jeremiah Morrell show. There are hundreds and into the thousands of people that watch this show that are 50% of them are in Indiana, and a great majority of those are in Henry County. So you are
Speaking to
given
the
the
voters.
opportunity to talk directly to people, and we don't have cable news in this community. This is as close as you get. So if you want to speak to the voters, you get to deal with these fools. But
Yeah, so that's what we're having. It's not going to be a formal debate. What it's going to be is a lot like other radio shows that you've heard where candidates are talking and they might have a disagreement, but we'll do a pretty good job of keeping it civil.
there's no clock.
Moderating.
Nobody's on a clock. It's not you have 2 minutes to answer, and we're going to buzz you off. You're going to be finishing thoughts, and we're going to have conversations, just like we did for the primary side.
A long-form conversation.
There we go. All right. So you're working on that.
And then the other thing I have is obviously I failed miserably at the sound tiles, as you can see by all the tape that's hanging around
I
on the
told
walls.
you yesterday, I forgot that Mike Broyles could see our comments, but I said construction adhesive, just some construction
Wow.
adhesive on the brand new drywall, and these sound tiles will stay up there.
It turns out it's going to take a lot more time, effort, and material. And because we have this wonderful new studio, the Patreon money, we can't just spend it on whatever we want to make upgrades now because we have bills to pay.
Now we got rent,
Yeah.
electric, lights, internet, heat.
So I created an Amazon wish list, going back to our roots, and made an Amazon wish list so that the people could go on there, see what we need.
That's
If they
how
felt
we got
so
the
inclined,
Craig DaCosta camera and the
Lisa Crosby lights.
the Lisa Crosby lights, and we'll say I think Sarah's using the Christy Avery microphone.
Well, look
Yeah.
at you, Sarah.
Lucky me.
But
We need
yeah,
a
that's
Christie sticker
we
right
have
there.
we have a Amazon wish list. It's plastered all over our Facebook page, and you can also just search Boss Hog of Liberty in the profiles, and you'll see our logo pop up with a wish list. And as soon as you click the buy button, it'll send it to the studio. So it's wonderful. So if you could go on there and give us a little bit of help, there's stuff that we actually need for the quality of this show.
Mike Morrell says he's sorry about the rat part. You shouldn't be sorry, Mike. You're doing a great thing.
Liar!
We're happy to be here.
You're not sorry.
No, that's a good thing. Mike and Scott and his group have done a phenomenal job flipping buildings and turning them around. And
honestly, our rent's not.
Rent is not too damn high.
Reasonable.
It's very reasonable.
Very reasonable.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, it is. And then the other thing, if you are not on the Patreon and you don't want to do the Amazon wish list, we also have a PayPal account, so you can just make a one-time donation. Search Boss Hog of Liberty on PayPal, and it will pop up, and you can just send us your money.
All right.
All of it. The whole paycheck.
Are you done with the commercial?
I'm done.
All right. Well, it would be fun. I know we've had a really good live viewership here, and this podcast will do phenomenally. If you do mail a check in to the Expo Center, somewhere on that check, just write on there that you heard on the Boss Hog of Liberty, so those guys know what kind of reach they got. And Cathy gets a little feedback for, hey, I did that podcast, and it raised this money, and how in the world did I get this check from this weird place? So people will know. Just put a little note in there that says, yeah, I heard on the Boss Hog of Liberty, so people know.
There's a memo line.
Give her a little bit of traceability there. Cathy, thank you very much for being here and all the volunteer efforts you do. You're a huge part of the community, and I know you work tirelessly, and you've got a lot going on in your life, so we're really happy to have you as a part of this.
Jerry Walden said that your gears never stop turning.
It's true. She single-handedly got 14th Street reopened, so her picketing and protests got the job done. Okay, so the one thing we've worked on, and we have received positive communication back. November 1st, we are going to host a debate here, or a debate, or whatever. You pick the terminology that you like. All three candidates for the state Senate seat are going to be here. They've all agreed. So
Correct.
Dave Cravens, Mike Gaskell, and Greg Nolan will be here with Dakota and I, and we're going to have a conversation that'll last 60 to 90 minutes, and it'll be available for everybody to watch. And we get to elect a new state senator. Doug Eckerty is retiring. And Henry County is going to have a new person, a new fellow representing us. The district includes all of the northern part of the county. So from Middletown all the way across to Bluntsville and Mount Summit and Springport, Sulphur Springs, all of those communities, Moreland, they are all in that district. And if you're a listener and you or if you're in the community, tune in and check that out, because you've got an important vote coming up. Because one of them is going to be your state senator, and they're going to serve you for the next 4 years, or maybe 40. God only knows. So it's big time stuff. We've got Janine Lee Lake, Tom Firkinoff. They've committed to the show. So you're going to have an episode for each of them. The potential representative candidate Greg Pence, we've invited him on. His folks have received the invitation. We've had a conversation. If you're a supporter of Greg's and you like this show, you may let his people know that maybe he ought to jump on here.
There have also been conversations with Joe Donnelly's people.
And maybe Joe Donnelly. Hey,
yeah,
we'll welcome on Mike Braun, Joe Donnelly, Lucy Brenton. We got possibilities for all of them. So thank you guys for listening. It's fun. The way we grow the show is when you share, when you like, you subscribe. You go rate us on iTunes. We're on iTunes. We're on Indiana Talks. We're on Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, iHeartRadio, just anywhere podcasts are sold. You can stream us on YouTube. So all over the place. Check it out. We appreciate it. And we doing a show next week. Who's on next week? You got a confirmation? You gonna break that story?
Okay, so next week, yes, we have Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
District 3 County Council, the start of the very first episode in our candidate series.
All right, so that'll be Jesse Riddle, Dakota Clark, and Peg Steffendale in that race.
Yes. Well,
have you confirmed all of them yet?
No, I have Dakota Clark and I have Jesse Riddle confirmed.
So,
yep.
Peg, you can call in anytime and confirm. 7 o'clock Thursday night. The microphone is ready for you.
That's right.
All right. We will see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to WeAreLibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.